Hello and welcome to Composer's Voice. This episode of Composer's Voice will be featuring the TC4 Saxophone Quartet. Celebrated for their unique approach and virtuosic performances, TC4 has delighted audiences in the greater Los Angeles area, blending the known with the unknown. TC4 uses their unique style to create a fresh environment for classical music, to reflect our lived experiences and mixed culture. And now, without further ado, let us introduce Andrew Harrison and Isaac Lopez of the TC4 Saxophone Quartet.
So hi, I'm Rob.
Huh?
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to finally meet you.
And tell us a little bit about your band, your group.
Sure. So TC4 is taken many forms over the years, but this is sort of the most complete version. It originally started when I was at USC, and I was trying to figure out some sort of chamber group that I wanted to sort of graduate and be performing with. And it didn't look like a saxophone quartet for a long time. I wanted to do something a little bit different. But over time, we're so comfortable in that medium. There's so much great repertoire that has been written and is also being written now. We ended up kind of bringing it all back together. So we all started playing together at USC. A couple of members have come and gone since then, but its current form is with myself on soprano saxophone, Isaac on alto saxophone. We have Frances Cisneros, and she's finishing her master's at USC, and Robert Alexander, who's a wonderful composer and saxophonist, on baritone saxophone. So we're all here in Los Angeles. We sort of met at different times, but this version of the group has been like really, really fun to play with. And we really got together during COVID and started online mostly, and now have transitioned back into the concert hall. Well, my name is Andrew Harrison. I'm born and raised in Southern California, specifically Riverside. Isaac and I met when we became students at USC at the same time. He was pursuing his master's in saxophone performance, and I was pursuing my doctorate. I also did some studies at the University of Texas, and ever since moving back to LA, I've been a performing classical saxophonist ever since.
Yeah, and I'm Isaac Lopez. I'm from Northern California, and like Andrew said, we met over at USC. I was starting my master's and finished up the doctorate over there, and now we're living down in SoCal, and just been kind of loving every minute of it, man.
So for me, my love of music came from performing for people. I remember my very first public performance. I had just barely started taking lessons, and I was playing this. Well, they're famous in the saxophone world, the Rubank methods. They're kids' pieces. And I played that for a recital. My band director came, and everyone was so excited about what they were hearing. And for me, it was kind of a technical exercise. And that bug of playing for people and seeing their faces light up is what kept me going in this business and what still keeps me going. So sometimes I feel classical music is very academic. You know, it mostly happens, or a lot of it happens on college campuses, where you can play anything in sort of a safe environment. Someone there is going to like, if you just yell and scream on stage, someone there is going to like it. So what I try to do with my students is make sure they understand what happens after school. Like, how are you going to build that career? Because when you graduate, the chances of you being famous the second you graduate is slim to none. So how are you going to go into your community and build your career, your ensemble, your teaching from scratch? How are you going to reach the people there? My philosophy that I always try to impart is you have to take your audience from what they know to what they don't know. And the same thing I think applies with teaching and performing. You have to make that connection with the people there, and then you can take them to a new place and they'll usually go there with you. So for me, making sure my students are ready for what the music environment looks like outside of school, where that safety net is gone, is really important.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
how many living composers do you do?
We do quite a bit. We're, because of USC being such like a wonderful composition program, we're pretty plugged into the LA composer scene. So we generally try to do a couple living composers work on pretty much every concert.
If
And
I'm not mistaken, the last like our last repertoire set, I think we might have only done one non-living composer last
yeah,
time.
I think that's correct. We did an arrangement of Bach's Little Fugue,
Mhm.
and that was the only non-living composer that we did.
For an hour-long set, I think.
Right. Yeah. So I think that we did Michael Markowski. We did, what else did we do? I can't remember. But yeah, we generally try to prioritize living composers, and we have so many composers who sort of reach out and send us music all the time. We have another composer, I believe his music was just featured on one of your programs, Andrew Sigler. He wrote a wonderful saxophone quartet. I don't know how to say the name. It's like In Trances, I think. And he sent it to us as well. We went to school together briefly. So he just sent that to us. We want to play that as
It's
well.
a cool piece.
But yeah, we're lucky that we've done enough new music and the music of living composers that we end up just getting an email box full of composers' work.
Yeah.
And we can kind of sift through it and decide what we want to do. And that's how we met Gary Powell Nash and why we're doing his 7 miniatures. He had never had it played in its entirety. And one of his pieces was featured on my Concertcast live stream by an oboist. He wrote a very famous oboe piece, which is also a set of miniatures. So he reached out and sent me the score, and I really liked it. It just took us a while to kind of find a program where it fit properly, and today's the day.
And one of the beauties of being able to kind of, I think, work with new composers and living composers is usually because maybe we've premiered some works, but we've also played works that are essentially still in their like kind of seminal stages of being performed, which is really cool because it allows us to essentially work, and communicate with composers who are either maybe already defined in a style or a mindset of sound in which they like to compose, or perhaps they're still kind of developing and kind of creating something for themselves, or maybe creating a few different things for themselves. And it allows us to essentially maybe kind of push and pull the music into ways that the composer might not have even looked at when they were just composing it by themselves. When they're working with live instrumentalists, and we're like, oh, this might work, potentially be possibly more effective if we try some things here and there. And they're usually really receptive to that because they see that we're really trying to create a moment of like an artistic moment with like their work. And that's usually for me how I essentially find new friends through music, is like we're essentially like creating something together, and then we both see that we're here essentially trying to build towards something, which is kind of I think one of the beauties of being able to work with living composers, man. That's
Guys, thank you again.
Yeah, really appreciate you bringing us in.
Take care, y'all.